So welcome back to another episode of My Think Tales of a Former Gangster. This is your host, Gunnar Lindbloom. We are in my office, so it's an office edition. And today we have my favorite co-host, good friend, my colleague, and my paisan as on the show to address some accusations and really just kind of out of the blue, off the wall accusations. And so Larry wants to address those, and then he wants to also kind of tell you about, I don't know. I think it's good that he starts a character reference for himself so people know really who he is, man. And I can vouch for it.
Well, I appreciate that. And most people that know me have nice things to say, which I'm blessed about. I don't have very many people that don't like me or have resentments towards me. There are some people, I got to just say, are jealous. And they can't control themselves. You know, misery loves company. You ever hear that term?
Oh, yeah, of course.
You know, I'm doing better than ever at this stage of my life in every way, shape, and form. I'm doing better than ever, okay? And some of these people are struggling, or they're trying to get, their little shows going. So they got to live vicariously through somebody else. They don't have their own stories, so they want to talk about other people's lives.
Yeah.
At least
I get
Sammy
it.
had the decency. Sammy had the decency. He doesn't need permission from me, just like I don't need permission from him to go on and talk and say what we want to say. But my stories aren't about anybody else.
Right.
I tell them about me. So to get back to Sammy, he was decent enough to call when he wanted to talk about that Nicky Black hit and let me know, give me a heads up that he was going to do it. I go for it. It's it's public knowledge. It's your version would be probably interesting too from what you heard. So anyway, but I'm going to start out by reading. I get these type of things dozens a week, like you do.
Mm-hmm.
Very kind people that like our books, like what we're doing with our lives. And they become almost, I don't want to say fans. Sometimes people think but whatever they are.
Supporters. Supporters.
Exactly.
That's how I don't call them fans.
This one came from a gentleman named Peter Falcone.
No
idea who he is.
Well, let me stop you right there. Peter Falcone is like one of the main character in my book, by the way. Peter Falcone's
okay, but it's not him.
No, but it's the Don of Detroit in my book is Peter Falcone.
Okay. So anyway, here's what he wrote. Right onto my website where they order the book. I must say I've read a lot of books, quite a few books on the mob, but none so enthralling. I read the entire thing in 2 days, and it only took me that long because I have a job and a family. I've never been so captivated by a story. The ups and downs, highs and lows, the treachery, the deceit, the people involved, their fate, their tragedies, the fate of it all. Absolutely fascinating. When I got done reading it, I was disappointed that it was over. But I must say, having read it once, I'll be reading it again. I feel a sense of appreciation for the guy Larry, who the guy Larry was and is in terms of his loyalty and authenticity. You don't find many people in the world who are genuine and authentic. You probably find even fewer in that life. Having said that, the life still fascinates me, as does Larry's story. One final note, it's a little bit more to go. I could probably go on for a while, but I'm sure whoever reads this has better things to do than read my comments in the thesaurus form. When I finished reading the book, I was putting the bookmark in. I got to turn the page. At the beginning of the book, as I looked through the pictures again, and I noticed on the second page a handwritten inscription from Larry that said, "Thanks, Peter. I hope you enjoy it. Larry M." Dated 6/1/21. I just really think that says a whole lot about Larry. In addition to the character and authenticity Larry showed throughout his story, he also showed a courtesy, kindness, and appreciation he has by going out of his way to inscribe that. While some may consider this a small gesture, I very much appreciate and respect the act. And boy, did Larry underestimate his book by hoping I would enjoy it. I'm sure that's part of his humility, because hands down, that was the best book I've ever read in that kind of genre. Enjoyment would be a tremendous understatement. As for the level of enjoyment I got from reading his amazing story, that's a movie if I've ever read one. And this part, I'm just going to say, because it's in there, Henry Hill's story ain't got nothing on Larry Mazza's story. Thanks to Larry for sharing his life story. Thank Larry for sharing his life story. I start with that because that's one of the better ones. I mean, that was really very kind. Probably overboard, but I appreciate he feels that way. And the sad part is you get these haters were these people who were miserable with their lives. So they try to muster something up by attacking other people. About 3 weeks ago, one of the first things happened to me that was bizarre. There was somebody on TikTok that was impersonating me. Okay.
Yep, you told me.
And a nephew of mine picked up on it because the guy didn't know how to spell. He was having conversations with people that he knew couldn't possibly be me. Long story short, a girl who he's bothering on this TikTok site, and anybody that knows me knows I wouldn't go on that because it's Chinese government run.
Yeah.
So I would never be on TikTok. But that's besides the point. So anyway, this guy, he by mistake, he was using burner phones. By mistake, one time he called her with his regular phone number. She traced it, got in touch with me, and I had my cousin Joe call him because he knows him from the neighborhood, and I knew him from the neighborhood too, but I didn't want to get on and accuse him of anything until I knew. My cousin said in less than 10 seconds, he was bawling on the phone, crying, hysterical. He's so sorry. He's losing his mind. The drugs got to him, all kinds of stuff. I never mentioned his name, but I did put it out there that we uncovered who it was because he has a family. He has kids. He's got grandkids. And the embarrassment, it's enough that he was exposed. So now, a week or two goes by, and I start getting calls from people that somebody is blasting me and a friend of mine, Johnny Alite.
Who, by the way, who's going to be joining us on the show. We're John Ayler's we're going to call John in a second.
Great.
So you know.
You guys talked, and I'm glad you got in touch. You talked. So to make a long, I can't really make it too short, so I'm just going to go on.
Yeah.
I never knew the guy in the street. I was in prison with him for a short period of time. And most of the things he says are delusional because, first, he doesn't even know my name. He calls me Mazza, M-E-Z-Z-A. And he says it numerous times. So he doesn't even know my name.
Right.
Okay? And he has no problem dropping names. He throws names out left and right. And most of the names he's mentioning were guys I was introduced to as a friend of ours that wouldn't even sit with this guy while he was away.
Why?
So well, because nobody liked him. And I'll tell you, he said something about me. My claim to fame was banging the boss's wife. Okay? First of all, if any woman in the world is my claim to fame, it's the girl I'm with right now. You know her, Kelly. Mm-hmm. Okay? My whole story is a claim to fame. Everything about it is so unique and compelling. So he wants to pick that out as my claim to fame. That's nonsense. There was a war. There was corruption. There was the life itself. Things me and Greg did together. Me and Greg Jr. did together. Greg Jr. is still one of my biggest supporters. We're very tight to this day. So he claims, this guy, that's my claim to fame. He needs to look in the mirror because now I'm going to tell you what his claim to fame is. This Jimmy Calandra. His claim to fame is killing a woman at a botched burglary attempt. He was part of a team of guys that botched the burglary and a woman got killed. A mother, a wife. And the FBI should be ashamed of themselves for accepting this guy in as a witness that killed a woman.
Well, he was a witness. He's a witness or something.
Yeah. Well, he went into the witness protection program. He made his deal and went in. I made a deal and I went on. I came out of population. I never wanted to be part of it. Unfortunately, at the beginning, I got stuck in protective custody units. And he talks about max security something. When you make a deal with the government, the first place they put you is in a hole. I spent 9 months in there because I didn't know which direction I was going in. It was all about the corruption. I really didn't want to be bothered with these people. I had to take lie detector tests. They ask you questions like, if you run into Carmine Sessa, he's the guy, my consigliere that ratted on me, would you have ill will towards him? I got to say no, and I can't lie. I said, of course I have ill will. Give him a beating. Fucking first time I ever see him, you know? So it's all like a farce to me. I knew there was corruption on the case. And I told him, I says, I'm more concerned with you guys hurting me in the future than my old friends. So that part, I don't understand why he said I was never in a maximum security prison. That's silly. He says something about me stealing his photo album.
Yeah, what's the deal with that?
I have no clue. I don't steal. Period. I'm not a thief. The one time,
why would you?
In a bank burglary, it never went off. You know, I make a lot of money in my life. I don't need. That's another thing. This guy, I don't think he ever made a penny. Okay, I make money. I'm an earner. I have intelligence. I'm decent looking. Everything this kid wishes he had. Okay, and I had balls. I proved my balls in the street. Okay, I didn't do it killing a woman on a burglary. So, you know, those things make no sense. He claims that I was whisked out of the building. Okay, it took me 3 days, and he says Otisville. I was in MCC. I was living right next door to Alley Boy, and my cellmate was Bobby Zambati. May rest in peace. A good man. That every day that I came back, I told him. He knew what was going on. He knew about the corruption when it came out that Greg was bad, and he knew I was trying to make some kind of maneuvers. He was fine with it. He was also fine with me when I told all of the guys that we were sitting there, Ali, Joe Monte, Chucky, Jojo, all these guys, that we should all take the stand. What did they get us for perjury? They want to lock us up forever. What, you know, let's try to just destroy the case. We all take. Bobby agreed with me. So he knew every step of the way. And the last day when I left that building, my last words to Bobby Zam was, "You got nothing to worry about." Anyway, he gave me the thumbs up. I left. So I don't know where he gets his story from that I came out of Otisville and he watched me and I checked into the hole. After that, I spent 9 months in the hole because they didn't know where to put me for a while. So,
he said that you're the photo album that he left it with you, and then when he came back from court or whatever, that maybe the counselor and maybe the council the shakedown and took it or something. It's not yours.
I'm not going to make an excuse because I can't even remember anything remotely close to that happen. I don't remember him. Why would he give me his photo album? I won't give him mine.
Right.
You know,
yeah. That don't really make sense.
Right. Why would you've been in jail? You've been longer than both of us. Why would you give somebody a photo album?
Well, I can see like maybe if you were going to court and you wanted someone you trust to kind of protect it so nothing happens. And in which case, let's say you got shook down while he was gone, and the cops were like, "Well, wait, this ain't your photo album," and they take it, and the counselor ends up with it. I could see that, but if you don't remember,
I think I would remember that.
Yeah.
I mean, I just, you know, and I know I was never his cellmate, so why? It doesn't make sense.
And you didn't really hang around him in there either.
Maybe the drugs, you know, and I saved him from a few beefs in there because of his attitude and his stupid mouth. He probably that he won't bring up. But I bet you Johnny will, because I know Johnny did some more time with him than I did. So I'm glad you got him. You got in touch with him. So anyway, those things, but that's like childish stuff anyway. I don't even need to talk about that. This guy's a pimple. But you know what's funny? If you ever watch his show, he can't even be himself. He is a mini Sammy right now, like a mini me. He talks real slow. And just like Sammy the Bull. That's how Sammy talks on his podcast. But that's Sammy.
Yeah.
You know, he must have went to that school of etiquette and oration or something, the podcast school, because he's not himself. But anyway, I can go on and on.
Yeah, well, go on. Tell you what you got to say.
I mean, you know, it's got to be a jealousy that he sees my book selling, sees that I've got the people that are witness to my character are ex-cops that were on my case. They're the ones that put me with De Niro. They didn't put him with De Niro.
Well, he claims Dade is on. He's claiming Dade says you weren't made or something like that.
Well, I don't know.
Who would know?
Say something. Well, that's another thing. Here, let me say this. There's two things I talk about on my podcast that are nonsense. One is the hitman thing. I always say off the bat, and I could milk that if it was all about money. the hitman thing, I could milk that like the Iceman did. That nobody knows this Iceman,
right?
Kuklinski. But meanwhile, he's got a book and a movie. I never heard of him. Man, it doesn't mean he didn't exist because I didn't hear of him. But I could milk that. What was the first thing I do? Is I tell them it's a myth. I am not a hitman. I never killed for money, and that's what hitmen do. Okay, and I downplay the so-called ceremony because it was unceremonious. It was a thing that had to be done because I was at meetings with bosses. I was at sit-downs with captains during the war. And you know what? Not one of those captains could, even for a second, say that I should have been at that table. Not after what me and Jimmy did during the war with Greg. Okay? They all wanted us there. So Teddy told his brother what was going on, and Junior Persico sent the message back, get those two guys recognized. So we had the I can't even call it a ceremony. We sat in the back of a restaurant, just like a dear friend of mine at one time got straightened out in prison. He came out of the bathroom and Gas Pipe introduced him to me as a friend of ours. But the guy did his job in the street. He earned it. But I mean, things weren't the same.
Yeah.
We couldn't prick the finger because Greg was sitting at the table.
Yeah.
We had to bypass that because of AIDS at the time. It was a big deal at the time.
Yeah.
So it's like now, maybe they're wearing masks when they have a ceremony.
It's not always as ceremonious as the movies. It's not. It doesn't have to be like that.
Exactly.
They need you to be made. They need a soldier. Like boom.
It was tradition. They were not going to tell us we couldn't be there because we were doing all the work.
Right.
I'll tell them where to go.
Yeah, you deserve to be there.
Really.
So.
Exactly. So, and also it's funny too. And Gregory I wish he could come on these shows someday. Gregory was one of the very next day, or I shouldn't say that, within a couple of days, we were in a car driving to Leavenworth, where Greg Jr. was. You know why we took that trip? Greg Sr. wanted to introduce me and Jimmy to Greg Jr. because he would be our captain when he came back home. So we drove all the way to Leavenworth. And this was Greg's idea, not mine.
And these are stories that these are high level meetings, made guys, captains. Nobody street guy's going to know any of this. Never. That's in my opinion, based on my experience in the street and the family. You won't know when they open the book. Somebody in the street who's just hustling or pulling the trigger around, he's never going to know. Never. Right. That's in my experience.
Not only that, like I said, what's the big deal? What's the big deal about it? Are you that jealous that I was hiding you in the life? He was a thug, maybe a junkie, maybe a drug dealer. I don't even know. But to come out and slander me, probably to get ratings for himself because he has no story of his own. This is the first time I ever came on a show and talked derogatively towards somebody. I just won't talk about them.
Yeah.
This is the first time. But he's a pimple that needs to be burst. Let the pus come out and it'll go away. I'm not going to entertain this very long. I'm going to do this. I'm going to go on Johnny's show. I already spoke to him about it. I'm glad he's coming on today and get it out there. And anybody wants to reach out to me, they can if they got something to say. Let me tell you this too. Sammy's been asking me to go on his show for months and months. He wanted me to go on with this kid. All right. And he wants to talk about, you can't get made or something. He said, because I was sleeping with the wife. First of all, he's right because I'd be dead. If that was
exactly.
happening.
Exactly.
It was an agreement. It was an arrangement. And we went on with our lives. And two other people knew about it too when it was happening because one of them worked with me, Jimmy. So he knew who I was sleeping with. And then he meets Greg later on. So, I mean, he knew all along, but it was just quiet. And nobody said boo, But so he said he makes that foolish claim. Of course, if it was known, I'd be dead. And so would Greg. So that was one of the first things I was told. So anyway, what were we talking about before that?
Well, I will say this. You'll get it back. But I will say in the meantime, I'll give you a quick analogy or a story of my own. Like I had a friend of mine. I had a friend of mine named Ricky. He was with me. He was kind of a street guy. He was part of my crew, and I had my own crew of
Right.
6, 7, 8 thugs, drug dealers, robbers, we did bad stuff. All right. And then I kind of fell under the umbrella of my uncle Pete Tocco. The moral of the story is this guy, Ricky, who's a friend of mine, who's, doing dirt with me in every regard, he would never know in his lifetime ever what my uncle was doing, who they were doing business with, nothing. He would never know. And that's the way it's supposed to be. I can't tell Ricky what my uncle's doing. Right. That's a death sentence. Right. So that stuff, what you were doing with Scarpa and Junior and all these guys, that's not something that gets out. You're not putting it on the street. It's just not going to be out there. I don't know this Jimmy Calandra. Like, I don't know what he did in the street. I have no idea. I know he's part of these Bath guys, and they killed a few guys, and they were bad boys. I knew hundreds of bad guys like that in the neighborhood. Here's the other thing I want to say is the guys like Ricky, my boy. I grew up in a neighborhood where it was all mobbed up. Then I went away for several years. And when I got to be a teenager, I kind of left my civilian friends and started going back to the old neighborhood. And a lot of these guys from the neighborhood, they were Italians. They knew that I was like coming up. I was connected. So they all like wanted to be my boy. They all wanted to be my friend and get involved with me and do anything. And the thing was, I had my cousin named Johnny Fats, right? He's a real good looking guy, charismatic and funny. But he was trigger happy and he liked to shoot people. He liked to rob drug dealers and stuff. And what happened because of that? The family didn't want nothing to do with it. He was trying too hard. What I'm saying is he was trying too hard to be accepted. He wanted to be, that's all he ever wanted to be is in the mob. And they didn't want nothing to do with them because he's trying too hard. And there's a lot of guys like that. And so, I mean, but he would never know what the real mob is doing. And that's in my experience. That's what I'm saying.
No, it's supposed to. You don't go broadcasting stuff.
No.
That's like John Gotti had problems. They didn't like him, a lot of other wise guys. Oh, that's another thing I want to say, too, while we're talking about the wise guys. There were non-made guys that got more respect than 10 wise guys put together.
Yeah.
Watts, Joe the German, he was with the Gambino. He goes back 3 bosses, and he can go direct to any boss he wanted.
I knew guys like that.
Hugh McIntosh, Apples, Junior Persico's childhood friend. He'd walk in the studio right now, shoot you, and then go buy a bagel. Yeah. Okay? Could never get straightened out because he's Irish.
Right. Yeah. I knew guys like that.
Let that go. Let it go. It's a technicality, just like the hitman thing. Let it go. I'm not a hitman.
Listen,
I'm not using it, please. Let everybody else up here. No, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I knew a couple of guys like that were like, same what you're saying. These guys, I don't even want to say the name of the Chaldean guys. They were basically higher up than almost all the made guys. Really, they were, because except the boss, underboss, these guys made so much money. They were, if you even breathed on them wrong, you're dead, because they were pulling in millions, and they were they were loved and beloved by the boss. So and these guys were untouchable. They weren't made. Even I wasn't made, but I was loved by Tony Giacalone. But I threatened to kill a made dude one time, and that guy wanted to kill me, put a hit on me, and Tony Giacalone set him down and said, "If you put a finger on this dude, then you have a problem with me." Blah, blah. So everyone was like, well, damn. So it doesn't matter if you're made all the time either.
So now I'm going to say another thing I do is a lot of times I don't like to mention names. Some of these people are still out there. I still get together with some active guys occasionally down in South Florida, but I'm not mentioning their names. I'm not going to put them in any bad spots. Also, like when I tell a story about that one of the family bosses that I spent my last 2 years with that hated what happened to us.
Well, he mentioned Calandra said something about that too.
He said the name. I never mentioned that man's name because I wouldn't want to put him in that position.
But you told me that story privately before. You told me you'd walk the yard with him and he spit.
Buddy.
What did he say?
I'll call him. I'm going to call him Buddy. That's what I call him. I think one time I slipped on one of the shows and I says, cut that. Make sure you edit that name. Okay.
Out of respect. There's no reason. Then he spit on the ground. You guys in the bathroom or something.
Yes. And Jerry Capisi sent an article in once on me that I had cooperated, whatever. And that so somebody sent this bad article about me, and he ripped it up. He threw it in the garbage pail. So my character and my reputation preceded me then and now. I've never changed the way I speak. I'm pretty well spoken in high school, college, in prison, out of prison, in the life, out of the life. I don't curse a lot. Go listen to this kid trying to talk, okay? And his reputation precedes him too, and it's not a good one. But I was going to say a story about him too, which is pretty bad. And this is why I didn't go on the show with Sammy. And I told Sammy this. This Calandra was down and out. He was having problems. So a friend of mine, I'm just going to tell you his first name, Sal, takes him in. Okay? And Sal's doing well. He's got a lot of different businesses going on, all legit. Everything's good in his life. He gives him a bed to sleep in, his own little room downstairs, offers him a job, no rent, nothing.
How is the kid doing so bad?
Wait a minute, because he's an idiot. He can't make money himself. So Sal leaves for work at 3 a.m, comes home one day and he finds out that he's hitting on the wife while he's away, while he's at work. So Sal is no slouch, and he'll eat this kid and spit him out in a very, very serious manner. That's all I'm going to say. Told this kid to take a walk. And it was a little more serious than that, but I don't want to put anybody in any position. Kid ran back to New York, wherever he went. Now he winds up with a girl that we both know very well that takes him in. Okay? He tries to make a move on her.
What's wrong with this guy?
Wait a minute. Wait. When she doesn't, he goes blabbering around the town that he slept with this girl. Okay? So I told Sammy this. I can't be around him after what he did to my friend Sal. And I know Sal a long time. He ain't making it up. Yeah. He's a serious guy. And, you know, he actually, Jimmy's lucky he walked out of there. Okay? So I would be very uncomfortable being there.
Yeah, it's not worth it.
Oh, Sammy this. And I thought Sammy would probably chase the guy, knowing that little thing, you sleep with babies, you wake up wet.
Yeah. But
for some reason or another, he took a liking to him. They went on their own way, and I never got with Sammy. That's the reason. The only reason.
So, well, maybe it's because
what I'm saying again is
moral high ground. You took the moral high ground.
He wants to bring up that I was 17 and I was with a 32-year-old woman that was married, and say that that's my claim to fame. It's such a silly statement. It just shows you he has no story to tell.
Wow.
You know?
So in prison, you guys, you mentioned that he couldn't even sit at the table with you guys. Didn't, you know, he wasn't part of your crew.
Yeah, no, I mean, there were guys, and really not me, because I wasn't that way.
You didn't care.
I told you this guy, Mike Dowd, from the 7-5 precinct, he had that documentary.
Yeah.
Probably the most corrupt, dirtiest cop in the history of
NYPD.
New York, for sure. He was having a problem while he was away. And he says to this day on his shows, he tells friends of mine, if it wasn't for Larry, I would have never made it through there. I wouldn't let them hurt the guy. And not that I was the toughest guy on the unit. The furthest thing from that. But I was liked. And they respected me. I said, why? I said, this guy was doing nothing worse than us. He wasn't an FBI agent.
He was a criminal.
He's a cop. He was in the same. He'd probably turn the other way in a heartbeat if he, you know, he didn't want no part.
He was a criminal, just like you guys.
Exactly. You know, he went in with a real badge. I knew guys that went in with fake badges.
Yeah, I've done it. I've done it.
Right. Exactly. So I understand the, you know, that real law. He's a police. Whatever.
Yeah, that's bullcrap.
Right. So it's the same thing. So I let Michael Dowd. I don't want to make it like I'm bigger than I am. But I had no problem sitting with him, having dinner with him, or lunch,
or Calandra,
or Calandra. Same thing. But I never gravitated to him. We never got close. And now I see he resents me, probably because I'm everything he wanted to be. Even now that I have, that I've gotten with De Niro, Scorsese, Nick Pileggi, I have all those cops, like I said at the beginning, that will take my back in a heartbeat. Okay, Bobby Milandich. He's like one of the head security guys for De Niro. I got FBI agents. There's one in my neighborhood that was on the Colombo squad. And he came into my restaurant. I took him outside and I said, do you know who I am? Because he started talking about who he arrested in the neighborhood. He didn't know me. Now we're friends. and he has everything he heard about me. He's so happy he got to meet me. This is an FBI guy that was on our case.
Yeah. You're a celebrity to him.
The prosecutor that was prosecuting the corrupt agent that wound up walking. So I don't usually bring up his name anymore because he beat the case. But everybody knows there was a corrupt agent on the case. That prosecutor will stand behind my
character,
integrity, character, all those words. I have nothing to lie about. You know why? Because my story is incredible without lies.
Right. Well, that's what I said.
Some of this stuff. So he wants to nitpick and argue things and tell me I'm a jailhouse thief. Let's see where you got to go. Really. I mean, it's so far fetched that I almost, like I said, I won't let this drag on because I've got way too many good things happening.
Yeah.
We've got my producer. He's getting ready to launch his own platform soon, and you're going to learn more and more.
And we got plans.
I wouldn't even say that, but I'm going to add one more thing. I am one of 5 guys mentioned on the board. That's a pretty good thing.
On the board,
and I'll tell you more about that in private. But
okay.
So I mean, things are just, and some of the shows you and I talked about.
Yeah.
The one we talk about, it's happening.
Yeah, I know.
He's got a little bit of a slight spin on it, but it's happening.
Yeah, I know.
And he brought something good, an addition to it. I've got Mike Manson and Armand DeSantis. As a matter of fact, I spoke to Michael the other day for Scott Bernstein.
Yeah, for his show.
Yeah.
Let's keep that quiet too for now.
Yeah. Well, I put them together. That's all I'm saying. But Michael Manson and Armand DeSantis researched me up and down, inside out, because that's what they do as actors, especially if they're going to be portraying somebody.
Right.
They said they didn't find a bad word about me anyway.
Well, there's you and Armand DeSantis in the wall behind you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's up there. Yeah. And there's De Niro, my wife.
Yeah.
But those guys all the research they did. So this guy, it took him 20 years. He's been out of jail 20 years. What rock did you crawl out from under to pick on guys like me and Johnny? You know why? You know what the common denominator is? We're successful. We're moving forward. We're out there in a good way. People like us. Okay. Right. He envies that.
Well,
or he's jealous, which is even a worse word.
Yeah. I get the same thing.
Jealousy is worse. And I've always said that to people. Jealousy is when you resent the person for having it. Envy is when you want to have that same thing.
Yeah, but so, you admire them for it. You know what I'm saying?
Right, and you don't resent it. Like people used to say, Greg and I had that conversation, Big Greg Senior, about envy and jealousy. He said, and ever since then, I understand they're two different things. Without getting into details, because it had something to do with Linda and money and things like that.
Well, it happens.
I might have made a comment to him once about being envious of him in a nice way. I envy you, Greg. As a kid and to see all the things he had.
Of course.
And somehow or another, it got into jealousy. He says, as long as you're not jealous, or something like that.
Yeah,
he says, and I remember this was his words. This is his words, and his daughter would remember it. And Greg Jr., jealousy is a senseless emotion.
Yeah.
Think about it.
No, you're right.
Nothing good could come from it.
Nothing.
So envy was a little different. So I don't know if he's envious, but it sounds more like he's jealous of guys like Johnny and myself.
Yeah, I mean, I've been experiencing that more and more as my channel grows and I get more and more. And I've always dealt with it my whole life. Like you said, guys are envy, and then been in the street before prison. It was always behind your back, and even then, I find out we got a problem. Right. But as you get out and you're trying to walk the straight and narrow, the more and more people come in and try to kick you off that straight and narrow path. Right. And it's like, why would you try to knock me off this path? I'm doing good. How about be envious and say, hey, he's doing good. I want to be what he's doing. I want to do it.
Emulate.
Yeah, exactly. Emulate. But not talk bad. I mean, so Jim Calandra, he's entitled to his opinion, but on the other note, when you state things as facts that you don't know for a fact, and which none of us will ever know as a fact, because we were in the room when you got made. We weren't there. At the end of the day, listen, I've known you for 4 years, man. You've been a freaking great friend to me. You've done me enormous favors. You love me. I love you. We're boys. I never taken you ever, not once, as a con man or a liar or a fabricator or an embellisher. Never. And I can say, and I'm a pretty good judge of character. And I've been spending my whole life seeing through scumbags, prison, streets. I can spot a scumbag liar in a minute. I mean, you're not one. You're just not one. It's not you.
Thank you. Thank you. It's not. There's no reason. There's no reason.
Right, exactly.
You know.
Right. You don't need to.
Those things are part of my story. And like I said, if I wanted to embellish or make it more than it was, I would have put some stories.
Yeah, made it even grander.
Greg told me to put on a 3-piece suit. I was in a sweatsuit. We just came from a meeting where we made Joe T, and we got to vote on who our acting boss was going to be. You got to be a good fellow for that.
Yeah.
And we actually got flip-flop because I was in the room when this happened. They then made Greg Sr. a captain for the first time. He became a captain in his whole career in the street, an official captain. And there's a reason he never took it, because his status with the government would change. So he stayed at a low level, although he was as powerful as anybody, as you know.
Sure.
And the reason he was made a captain was because shortly after, Jimmy and I were going to be officially in, and he was going to be our captain. Otherwise, we'd be placed with somebody else.
Yeah, you don't want that.
He wasn't putting us anywhere else, and that's why we made that trip to see Greg Jr.
Yeah.
And
Smart.
he got up and he hugged us and he kissed us. He was proud of us for the war, what was going on. And unfortunately, 6 months later, I was pinched, so it didn't even matter.
Well, I mean, the thing is,
make a call.
Yeah, I'm going to call Johnny right now.
Cool.
I wanted to say the whole character attack, man, is kind of low blows.
It's ridiculous.
I get it. I get it from my end too. Guys will attack my character, call me a liar, say I'm full of shit, and they'll there's no record of you being on record if the tote goes and blah blah blah. And I told that to Bernstein. Yeah. Bernstein said, "Show him your birth certificate," and I'm like, "Yeah, exactly, bro. There's nobody. There is nobody to confirm my status in the street."
I'm lucky because, I use the word a lot. I'm blessed with a lot of supporters, a lot of friends, guys from the old days that still reach out for me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. New guys that I've met.
Yeah, me too.
People. And I can honestly say, I can't think of one other person. Now, I'm sure he'll say some of his friends or his junkie friends or whatever, people he knows.
Same with me. There's always some losers.
Whatever he wants to say. But all the people I've come in contact with, from the film industry to the street to prison, no matter where it is, I get along with everyone. They all like me. They respect me. They've never been called a liar.
Right.
The only, like I said, I had my ups and downs with some of the Scarpas, but really only one. The rest of them have supported me 1,000%. They still do. So, to have a pimple like this come out, like I said, we'll squeeze them, and then I put them in my past, in the rearview mirror, like they say. Because this will only. Oh, you know what it is? Ratings, like you said. You said that to me. It's probably for ratings, and you know what? I'm going to tell him, if this is the route he wants to go, he's going to be the Jerry Springer of podcast TV. And I was offered to go on the Dr. Phil show. I didn't know who the hell he was.
That's funny.
Kelly told me, watch one of his shows. I called up the office and I says, tell this guy to rip up my number.
Yeah,
I'm not going to go on it. Have some shrink try to tell me, how do I feel about this and that, and then come out with somebody that's related to somebody that got hurt during the war or something. I told him, rip up my number. So if I'm about all of that, I'd stay the hitman. I would have went on the Dr. Phil show as the biggest hitman in New York. I would have, but I don't. I downplay all that stuff, including what I was in the family.
Well, that's because that's you. That's your character.
You don't even have to read my book. Go read the newspaper articles.
Right. Well, again, it's a character judgment, and I can totally relate, because when people attack my character the same kind of way he's doing with you, you're a liar. I'm like, bro, that is like, at first I was like, that's the biggest insult you can give to me. Like, why would I lie about my own life? It's not that grandiose. It's not that
Right.
remarkable. I mean, the stuff that I did. It's
Yeah.
really there's 1,000 guys in the street who do the same
Right.
freaking thing. I'm just on YouTube talking about it. I did 13
Yeah.
years. I mean,
And-
I am who I am. I'm not going to make stuff up for this. And
Mhm.
it is what you don't want to believe it. That's fine. But you're not going to find a way to prove
Right.
it wrong. I mean, when they
Right.
say, "Oh, Detroit," I'm like, listen, Scott Bernstein is the world's foremost expert on the Detroit Mafia. Literally wrote the
Yeah.
book Motor City Mafia about my family. He's my co-host on the show. You don't think that who spends his entire life universe researching the
course.
mob? You don't think he's going to come on here with me if I was some freaking phony making stuff? It's ridiculous and it's absurd, and that's kind of what this is. I'm like, what? You don't know, we don't know. But if you don't know, you don't know. But don't make a claim that it's a lie.
As you get more popular,
Yeah,
and your
exactly.
your support base, fan base, whatever you want to call it, gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Other people are getting jealous. You know, that's really the bottom line.
That's what it is. Let's call Alite. Let's see what Alite's doing.
Yeah. I'm glad you guys finally hooked up.
Yeah, me too. We had a quick call and talked about 10, 15 minutes. Johnny, how you feeling, man? You doing all right?
Yeah, I'm all right. How's everything going? What's going on?
Everything's good. You know, Larry's kind of addressing this whole issue with the Calandra thing, and I know we were calling. I know Johnny has just recently had some surgeries. You know, I'm kind of not feeling great, but he sounds all right. He's doing all right. So, I'm sure you have some things you want to add to this whole, fiasco.
Here's my opinion, and you guys know the life, so I'm gonna give it to people in the public that don't really understand.